Hello everybody and welcome to the stream. I'm CaptDaf and I'm playing 80 Days even though it says Thimbleweed Park because I haven't changed the game title yet. I've just restarted the stream from finishing Thimbleweed Park. It's a great game, you should go buy it. Alright, game title. 80 Days. And we make that bigger. And we move it into the center a little bit. And right a bit more. I really wish it would do like centered text, but you know. And I'm going to need to fix it on the next one as well because it just doesn't do it automatically. It's a bit of a shame that I have to adjust these. It'd be cool if I could do one based on the other. That's a little bit smaller than the other one, but I don't really care. It's just gonna have to work that way. It's fine. Are those around the other way? Okay, that can go up there. Yeah, alright, cool. Let's launch the game. Okay, yep. Okay. Play. Cancel. Things. Here. No. Still not coming up. Uh-oh. It's in full screen mode. There we go. It's in full screen mode, which means I can't see chat right now. Or anything else. Oh yeah, the name of the game that I'm playing, I've already changed. My bot has that. I think I might be able to do it via a command, but I can already do it in the bot as well, so that's generally okay. It would seem he is a gambling man. I'd love to get into the options menu, although this music is pretty damn cool. In association with Cape Guy. No capes! I can see it in my bot. I just need to get to it. $80 days. And it appears we'll be starting in London. Alright, I'm just going to tab out real quick so I can get to my bot. Drag my bot over to the other monitor. Okay, so turn the game volume down a little because I'm having a lot of trouble hearing myself think. Do I want to enable Google Analytics? Yeah, okay, I suppose. It's still really loud. Oh, that's frustrating. It mutes the sound. It mutes the volume, or it lowers the volume when you're in the settings, but then you can't tell how loud it is for the game. Like, come on, game. Alright. How are you? You're okay? Good. There's one thing about my mic placement. My mic is over here, and my chat is over here. So if I turn to look at chat, I'm like facing 90 degrees away from my mic, which is over here. I could put my mic in front of my chat, but then I wouldn't be able to read it. Generally here, right in front of me, it's fine. Okay, this looks good. Let's click to begin. Here we are in London. Now we have 80 days to travel around the world. Monsieur Phileas Fogg, returned home early from the Reform Club, and in a newfangled steam carriage besides. I helped him down, and the iron-lung, steam-driven horses clattered away. You know, I know Phileas Fogg. I do not know how to pronounce his butler's last name. Passepartout? Passepartout, said he. We are going around the world. Around the world, monsieur? Very good, monsieur. Very good, monsieur. I murmured dutifully, not believing a word of it. We shall circumnavigate the globe within 80 days. He was quite calm as he proposed this wild scheme. We leave for Paris on the 8:25, in an hour. But of course, I answered, still extremely suspicious. He nodded. Good. Pack an altimeter and my evening jacket. There is not a moment to waste. We, Passepartout, now have funds. Our character is now dependable. Passepartout? Sure. We are dependable. I'm not sure what being dependable means, but it sounds good. Hey, it's 7 p.m. The 8:25 is in an hour and a half. Oh. Quickly, Passepartout. Oh, right. Oh, time is ticking. Oh, shit. All right. We need an altimeter. And what else do I need to do? Okay. Oh, valuable in Paris. We're going to Paris. How much? Part of the Englishman's wardrobe set. What's the other one? Alright, we have a set. Okay. Are we ready to depart? Our completed Englishman's wardrobe should help us negotiate times of upper-class journeys. Oh, good luck, everybody. We have one bag. It's not costing us any health. Let us embark. Departing now. One suitcase which will suffice. This promises to be a bearable route. The mechanical horses raced past Piccadilly Circus and Pall Mall faster than a team of thoroughbreds. Even so, the whistle of the 8:25 was blowing as we pulled up to Charing Cross Station. We raced along the concourse and threw ourselves aboard as the second whistle shrieked its warning. We barely had time to take our seats before the guard rapped smartly on the compartment door. He held out a hand. Tickets, please. Alas, monsieur, we were in a great hurry, I explained, giving him a beseeching look. We did not have time to buy tickets. You may purchase them from me, the guard was saying, though it is more expensive, I'm afraid. £85, please. I'd love to haggle with him, but we do have £4,000. How good at haggling do you think we are? Still, we're not being thrown off the train. I handed over the £85 and smiled a thin smile, from one working man to another. The guard gave me our tickets and slid the compartment door shut behind him with a pneumatic hiss. Our funds have gone down somewhat. I am on fine form, but we must make haste. Let us converse. I am at your service, Monsieur Fogg. What is the purpose of our journey? I have made a hefty wager, and I do not intend to lose. The journey will be most expensive. Indeed, but we can earn a little from buying and selling our possessions as we travel. Very good, monsieur. Oh no, everybody died. Sorry, everybody. London's smog gave way to rolling hills and the pastures of Kentish countryside, still untouched by the hand of technological advancement. Monsieur read his paper while I repacked our bags, thrown together in haste and confusion. As afternoon turned inexorably to evening, I discovered that my master was one of those gentlemen who broke their silence rarely, if at all. A guard rapped on our door, a few miles before Dover. "We are about to submerge," he warned. "Take some people a bit funny, so watch out." Very good, I replied, as though submerging inside a 1,000-ton metal train was quite ordinary for me. "If you feel claustrophobic," the guard replied, "try running up and down the corridor. I always find the exercise helps." With that, he closed the door. I think he's trolling us. I think running up and down the corridor is something for them to get a laugh at. Would Monsieur Fogg be claustrophobic? I doubted it. He appeared not to be constrained by mere matters of place and circumstance. An alarm sounded as the fins above the amphitrite's wheels extended with a hydraulic hiss. Night fell, and we plunged past the end of the track into the freezing water of the English Channel. Our relationship with Fogg has strengthened slightly. Back on dry land. The amphitrite ploughed through the water overnight and splashed up onto wider gauge French tracks at Calais as dawn broke. Do you have a route in mind, monsieur? I asked, as the water of the channel dried from the compartment windows. I am as yet undecided, my master admitted. The new canal has sped up the shipping route from Suez to Bombay, though perhaps we could take the Trans-Siberian Railway across Russia. I'm not sure which one he should be more outraged at. I know, Rockpants, that would be very helpful. Surely not Siberia, I exclaimed. It is so cold and grim, and I have a particular fear of bears. Then we would do well to buy furs, he replied, refraining from rolling his eyes. There are other alternatives. We may also travel overland and across the Black and Caspian Seas. But which is fastest? I believe, said he, that is what we shall put to the test. Parbleu, I scarcely knew what to think. We arrived at Paris-Gare du Nord just after 1 o'clock. Automaton porters lifted our luggage and then our persons onto the platform with long, delicately filigreed iron arms. Paris, city of my heart, I was home, but not to stay. Alright, we have discovered Suez to Bombay and Moscow to Cider. Hello! It's not Thimbleweed Park anymore. Oh good, I did start the recording. Alright, several of our possessions. Yes, let's go to the market. We can sell this wax cylinder for £470. Hells yes. A travelling cloak. Gentleman traveller set. It's Englishman's wardrobe. Where are we going next? I don't know. A shaving kit. I probably want that. In Berlin. Are we going to go through Berlin? I mean, probably. We should probably get a travelling cloak. Wait. Copenhagen? Is that sort of near? I don't know. Okay. Let's get out of here. Oh no! Close the luggage. Let's explore. We had a few hours to spare. I asked Monsieur Fogg if I might enjoy my city before we had to leave. Indeed. And should you learn anything of note, be sure to relay it. I nodded and headed into town. The talk on the streets was of one thing only. It's not Thimbleweed Park. It's now 80 days. I finished Thimbleweed Park. It's all finished. I'll probably play it again on casual, just because there's a couple of achievements that I would like to pick up. But yes, no, this is 80 days. The talk on the streets was of one thing only: an enormous, elegant oval stadium, constructed upon the green fields of Champs-Élysées, and containing the technological marvels, art, amusement parks, and milling crowds of the World's Fair of 1872. I ventured inside the grand illuminated pavilions of the exposition and got my first achievement for visiting the World's Fair. An artificer was replacing an arc light, or I went west towards the airship hangar. My game should say let me refresh. My game says 80 days. My title says because it's the same stream. I didn't restart the stream. Alright, it says Thimbleween Park / 80 days now. Airship hangar. I went west towards the airship hangar, past a booth with a husband and wife pair selling panoramic hot air balloon rides to eager tourists. The hangar was crowded with airships and flying vehicles of all shapes and sizes, attended by sharp-eyed crews from all over the world. My eye was immediately caught by... a twin-bladed Peruvian gyrocopter. Hells yes. Which looked tiny and flimsy in comparison with the airships surrounding it. They say the Incas invented the first gyrocopter, boasted the dark-haired pilot, pushing up her goggles to give me a wink. As their heirs, we Peruvians have made some few improvements. You do not see many Peruvian gyrocopters in the air, I remarked. Are they unsafe? The lady shook her head. No, they are quite safe, but they are quite hard to build. Perhaps one day soon Monsieur Fogg and I would find ourselves flying in such a craft. I returned to the exposition centre, my thoughts turning with clouds and engine rotors. Avenues sprawled in every direction between the thriving illuminated pavilions of the exposition. Still with the arc light. Let's an artificer was replacing an arc light, which had burnt out. She first disconnected the strange machine powering the lights. It had a spinning iron wheel, which was wound around with a series of armature coils. What's that device, artificer? I asked politely, my eye straying to the copper lily pin which proclaimed her profession. It's a bleeding nuisance is what it is, the artificer grumbled in a thick Yorkshire accent, which I have no idea how that sounds, so some generic English one will have to do. These gram machines are finicky beasts. Gram machines? I inquired. Well, it's a... Oh, never mind, she waved my question away. It's a steam engine, all right. Only it doesn't make steam. Will that do? I hate explaining this stuff to laymen. The harshness of her tone was belied by her gentle touch as she unscrewed the arc light's globe of enamelled glass and replaced the 2 carbon rods within. She reconnected the supply, and the 10 Yablokov candles connected in series lit up once more. They are miraculous, I breathed. The artificer snorted. Their hard work is what they are. Miracles indeed. But her mouth softened into a small, proud smile. She looked at her pocket watch, cursed and hurried off, dropping something as she went. I hurried after her to return it, and she thanked me. My medallion! I'll need that to get my lunch from the canteen. Thank you. I bowed in return, and she giggled. Stop that. You'll make me blush. She rubbed the coin thoughtfully. I was given this for my work in Istanbul, you know. Istanbul? Istanbul. not Istanbul. Istanbul. Sorry, brain. It's still early. I made a very special automaton. I think it works as a driver now on the route from Izmir. I think that's right. An automaton who can drive? Of course. Is that so strange? I could only shrug. Who knows what is normal in this modern world? I looked about me once more. Crowds of tourists jostled and heaved past, their eyes wide with wonder. I took a stroll down the Avenue of Nations, lined with buildings in the styles of the nations of the world, and manned by foreign delegates in a national dress. Oh, interesting. Although the newly formed German Empire was a conspicuous absentee in the city it had so recently conquered. The Zulu Federation had built a replica village and brought a delegation of 400 diplomats and warriors, which made for a busy, impressive stand. Above the display was a fine ferrotype of their great emperor, Ketzwer, in his palace in Ulundi. One of the young impy warriors dropped his fierce look and winked brightly at a passing child, who erupted into shy giggles. You have made a powerful friend, I remarked to the child, who seemed startled to receive this news, and ran off into the crowd. I turned away hurriedly. My feet were tiring, and the hour was growing late. I returned to Monsieur Fogg, who was eating a meal of plain boiled beef Hollandaise. Did you enjoy the expedition? My master inquired indifferently. Having preferred a hearty meal and an English newspaper to all the wonders that the modern world had to offer. We are unspeakably lucky to live in such an age of invention, I declared. It will certainly make it easier to win my wager, Monsieur Fogg replied mildly. I dreamed that night of mechanical wonders and automatons with beautifully enamelled faces, knowing little of the strange inventions and strange people I would soon encounter in my journey around the world. Alright, we can go from Izmir to Istanbul now, as we spoke to somebody. Okay, planning. Can we get to Berlin? Can we go to Amsterdam? Tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Apparently we missed the car by not very long. That's a shame. Can I not buy tickets now? How do I... Okay. We took a hotel for the night, which was, yeah. I wouldn't have gone exploring if I'd known I could have gotten a car to Amsterdam. Next time, plan first, I suppose. Travelling overnight will be more efficient. So we must board the longest journeys available. Perhaps, he replied, the short answer indicating, I think, that one-day journeys might often be more flexible in their timing and could allow for more connections. Still, the surrounds of the Hotel Ritz were most enjoyable. Okay, I've been to the market. Do we need to go to the bank? We must visit the bank, Monsieur declared. You have additional funds? I'm a gentleman. They would extend me credit if required, he replied. But do you suppose I put my entire fortune into a carpet bag under your supervision? I did not answer. I regarded the bank as we entered. It was a palace of stone and shimmering marble floors with beautiful windows, fountains, and plants. You wish to withdraw funds, we were told. I warn you, it may take some time. Wow, okay. It will take too long. I informed the manager. We swept out of the bank. Thankfully, our situation is not desperate, my master declared. That is annoying. Oh, you are kidding me, really? £44 to take it? We'll make it up. That's the open road. It's going to be -5 health. This is probably a terrible plan. A second car for our luggage. We found a member of the Coachmakers Guild to carry us to Amsterdam. She loaded the cases onto the back, stoked the boiler, and took off at high speed along the coastal road, swerving around each corner with considerable skill, and, I think, some glee at our discomfort. I clung on tight. This would be a terrific ride. Relations with Fogg have deteriorated slightly. Greetings, driver. I cannot drive well if you were talking to me. I need to know about Amsterdam. Hardly seems important. Is there a route to Amsterdam and Berlin? Yes, by private car, but it's a tiring one. That's annoying. And then Copenhagen? I guess we could have taken the train to Munich. Once or twice, the metal-rimmed wheels lifted the chassis clear of the road on one side, only to bump down after a chuff and puff more on the engine. We must have topped 40, perhaps even 50 miles an hour. A fabulous way to travel. The Polish inventor Bozek, who first attached a perfectly decent locomotive engine underneath a flimsy wooden crate, was clearly a genius. Such cars were growing in popularity, starting from their use in farmsteads and extending up through the classes. There were those who said that such contraptions would soon be privately owned, and not just by members of the Coachmakers Guild. As we rattled along, I spoke to our driver about what lay ahead, and learned that the most efficient way to Prague is to go via Berlin. Berlin is where we are heading. We're in Amsterdam. The market doesn't open until 7 AM, which means we're going to have to take the hotel. Okay, the car doesn't leave for another 2 days. It's -16 health. Oh, we could negotiate. We can pay more. Wow! We can leave tomorrow for £600. But that bottle of wine that we bought is worth a couple of grand, so that will do well. At least I think we bought it. Yes, this one here. It's worth a couple of grand. Alright. 8 o'clock tomorrow? It's not going to give me a lot of time to go to the market. How do we spend the night? Oh no, we're selling it. We're selling in Berlin, not here. I felt no pressing need to linger. Once Amsterdam was a great centre of trade, but now it strikes me as a provincial sort of place. There was, of course, the short northerly canal. So many choices. All that remained was to choose how best to depart. Let's depart. So, because we have the travelling cloak which I bought. Thankfully, it won't be... Good job, everybody. Great heist. It's not as bad a journey as it was going to be. Our next leg was another short trip in a car. I bounded in, eager to get started. We hired the same driver as before. You too, she exclaimed. Get in. I shall attend to Fogg. Unfortunately, he only goes up one. He only goes up 1 health because he went down to 95 from the previous trip. We stayed in a hotel overnight, so he got 4 back, and my grooming got him 1 back, but he's about to lose 16. Oh, 6, sorry. As we departed Amsterdam for Berlin, I begged Monsieur Fogg to allow me a turn at the wheel. He looked at our driver, who smiled, and happily moved to one side. The wheel beneath my hands was like nothing I have experienced before. Excuse me. Almost an electrical sensation, as though thunderstorms rippled inside the wood itself. The mechanism of the car was quickly grasped. The first lever produced forward movement, the sideways levers controlled our gearing and hence rate of power. The rest of the controls were evident enough. We made good time, though at the end of the day my palms were scorched and red hot. Now I know where drivers wear gloves. Oh, that is great. He got to drive a car. We don't have a lot of time for conversing. How are you, Journey? Day 4, I believe. Early days. Quite comfortable. I could have groomed again to get his health up a little bit, but I was hoping to get some more information about things. Relationships with Fogg have strengthened. That's a lot of doubloons, Cider. Yes, it sure could. We're going to have to spend the night, though. We stayed for the night in the Hotel Adlon unter den Linden, the main boulevard in the central Mitte district. From the window, the Brandenburg Gate was lit by upturned gas lamps. I went for a late night stroll along the avenue, past groups of people drinking at low tables. I sat with a man who was demonstrating various engine noises to a rapt audience. You are a driver, I asked. The best in Germany, he retorted. What is your secret? I asked interestedly. He raised a glass of his foaming beer. Relaxation, he exclaimed. And, he wagged his finger, a very nice car. It seemed he was leaving tomorrow morning. I don't know what our plans are. We did pretty well in the car. It seemed he was leaving tomorrow morning on a 4-day trip to Bucharest via Prague and Budapest. I wondered whether he planned to drive to Bucharest with one hand on the wheel and the other holding a beer stein. Alright. I gotta get that market. Okay. And go. Market. Sell this. Yes. Okay. Cartoon. Yeah, we probably want that. Where is Khartoum? I don't know where Khartoum is. Well, I'll see how it goes. It's 0. Fine. We'll buy it for 0. Alright. Those are the routes that we just got by buying that timetable. I could have bought a European one as well. Alright, we're in Berlin. Let's plan. It's 9 o'clock. Where are we? We're in Berlin. Do we want to get to Prague? Can we go straight to Bucharest? Arrives Thursday. Minus 26. Again, it's a private car, so it's not as fast as a train. We don't know a route to Warsaw. It's only -9. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Alright. It looks like we're spending the day in Berlin. Let's explore then. Ah, look, now we can get to Warsaw. Berlin, they tell me, was once filled with the glorious sound of people speaking French. Not so anymore. Thank you, rock bands. Now there is nothing but the crashing of gears. Every street corner is equipped with rotaries and wheel systems, spin glass globes this way and that. Their purpose is quite unclear, but when I investigated one by clambering up the pole using my acrobatic training, much to my master's horror, I found that it was a solid crystal sphere with no openings and nothing inside. The mystery persisted until nightfall, when these globes all lit up, and the people of Berlin clustered around the warmth of the globes to drink beer and converse. It seems they work hard here, but they celebrate with equal vigour. We avoided the festivities, guarding our wallets and heads against the thick wheat beer they drink here, which looks to me like more of a puree of oatmeal than a decent lager. The afternoon turned to evening, and we finished our explorations of Berlin. Relations with Fogg have strengthened slightly. Okay, let us hotel. Oh no, wait, hang on. Okay, still departs tomorrow. $97 gets us to Warsaw, but why is there? Oh, the yellow ones are ones I can actually make. And the red ones are travel routes that I can't make. Day 8, they took him away. What? Alright. Do we want to drive all the way to Bucharest? We could drive to Vienna and then catch a train, it looks like. Okay. Let us stay. With what remained of the day, Fogg is back up to 100 health, actually. Maybe we could drive all the way to Bucharest. I went to stretch my legs and found a nervous Greek seamstress who was looking for a child, whom I located near a food stall. The seamstress thanked me, and as we talked, remarked that some buyers will pay well for evening jackets from Warsaw. I thanked her, and she shrugged and went about her affairs. Oh, okay, we could go to Warsaw. Departs at 8 o'clock. Okay. Did I buy all of the things? I must have, because there's nothing else in the market. Okay, let's depart. Let's go to... Arrives today. Arrives tomorrow. Oh, wow. It's cheaper to go to Budapest than it is to go to Prague. Let's do that. No! Ah, screw. Oh no, I just missed it like by a second. God damn it. I am so annoyed. I am so annoyed. I could still go to Warsaw, but I don't really want to go to Warsaw or Stockholm. Fuck it, let's go to Warsaw. The newly amalgamated German railways made a political point of their efficiency to quiet any nationalist rumblings. The departures left at the moment they claimed, not a second before, and not a second after. Suspecting as much, I attempted to plan ahead, loading all the luggage a full hour early and ensuring Monsieur Fogg was installed the moment the guards lifted the gate. However, in my preparations, I somehow left my own ticket behind. What? How did I do that? This seems unfair. And was forced to buy a forgery from an old woman with only one tooth, which she used to cut the punch holes into a blank card. I was highly suspicious of this racketeer and waited for a moment to try the ticket when the guards were not looking. Oh, you are kidding me. Seriously? Unfortunately, I waited too long. As the train pulled away, I cursed. The guards came to investigate, found my spittle-stained ticket. I waited and missed the train and dragged me away. I spent the night in the station's private cell while my gracious captors sent a wire to Warsaw for Monsieur Fogg to consider bailing me out upon his arrival. That's fucking rude. Warsaw to Minsk. Have I ever picked a pocket? Yeah, once. Can I get to Odessa? Well, we're on the train, I suppose. I spent the day imprisoned, pacing backwards and forwards, with nothing to do but chew my fingernails to the quick and curse myself roundly. Was this the end of my adventure around the world? Surely not. But then the keys rattled in the iron door, and one of the guards informed me that Monsieur Fogg had vouched for me. A gentleman's word needs no further proof, and so they hauled me from the cell and put me on the next train. I have never been so grateful to be aboard a locomotive. I was away. The countryside rolled past, and I spent the journey worrying about how my master would regard this day's delay. It was, after all, entirely valet caused. If I'd made it on that train, if I made it on that car, this wouldn't have happened. Alas, Monsieur Fogg met me on the platform as I stepped from the train, and waited for him to speak. "Come along, Passepartout," he said, and turned on his head. I hurried after him into town. An evening jacket would serve us well here. Oh, we could sell it for 600. Oh, we don't need this anymore. A fur coat. We have a traveling cloak. Oh, they're both part of the same thing. Oh, we're going to Minsk. Yeah, I am worried about that. Alright. We walked the streets of Warsaw, feeling the air of an indifferent continent all around. In less than 2 generations, the Tsars had made this little outpost all their own. They have made it much nicer too. There are building works on every road, with great digging machines sitting idle during the day, and coming to life in the evenings as they carve out sewage and water systems that will allow the city to grow to enormous size. This place will be unrecognizable soon, I declared, and Fogg agreed. For now they are writing the landscape, he replied, but soon they will attempt to do the same to the people. He shook his head sadly. When will people realize that only the English are fit to run an empire? I agreed emphatically. What a pair of travellers we are, putting this silly world to rights. Our character is now organised. If only we'd been a little more organised previously. Are we organised as well as disciplined? Or are we now... we have no means of travelling, so we must explore. Alright, now we can get to Minsk and Moscow, and that is what I'm trying to do. Going out in the day, I encountered an incredible creature, as tall as a house, with wide swinging metal arms, like a rampaging giant. I stared, gawping at the terrible machine stomping from foot to foot, slowly rotating. And then I saw that in its chest was a band. Using levers and switches to operate the colossal device. It was a gigantic walking exoskeleton. I waved to him and he looked down and tipped his cloth cap. How does it work? There are 2 levers for each hand and they work on ball sockets. I'd let you try, sir, but I must get on with my work. What is this thing? I continued. It's a Kodonki, he said, from Novorossiysk. They've shipped a few in to help us with the building work. He pulled a lever and the machine drew back a massive arm. From Novorossiysk, you say? It's a small town on the far side of the Black Sea, he replied. I don't know why they have a surplus of these things there. The drawn back arm smashed into a wall and the building fell into a cloud of dust. I jumped back. Excuse me, my friend called, but I must get back to work. What an incredible sight. Alright. We can get to Minsk, we can get to Moscow. 390. Embark. Good. Let's go. Get out of here. I do not want to accidentally stay in town again. We clambered aboard the train. Monsieur Fogg settled in a far corner like a dusty old uncle, and I went to sit next to him, ready to attend to his wishes. He had none, of course, but to be left alone with his thoughts, whatever they were. So we rode in silence, a comfortable silence nonetheless. Good evening, men and friends. Tell us about, Ektekinburg. My mother had a wonderful time aboard the freight train from Ekaterinburg to Astrakhan. Vladivostok? You mentioned trains. I've been told I knew about a man who had an adventure about the camouflage from Hera to Kabul. And then from Vladivostok to Yokohama? Absolutely. Vladivostok is linked by a Korean trader, but it's slow going. And then Yokohama to Honolulu. Some buyers will pay well for accordions from Honolulu. We already have an accordion. We've discovered a couple of new routes, which is excellent news. That one's not going to help us. That one's not going to help us either. This one might help us. We arrived at Minsk after nightfall and watched as people hurried from the train into the dark and cold streets. Monsieur Fogg held his teacup close and I huddled beneath a blanket. At least for tonight, we were safe. Let me attend to Fogg. Morning came and we were still crossing the Russian countryside, the train moving on its slow and steady way. I spent the time talking to other passengers, hoping to find options for our next leg. I met a charming Muscovite artist with a taste for music, so we played ditties on the domain accordion and I learnt that the Trans-Manchurian Express from Karimskaya to Pyongyang is one of the fastest trains in the world. Norwegian, hello. Good evening. Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. I was going to ask how your weekend was going, but I'm sorry you're having work troubles. Hopefully I can help distract you, if even only a little amount. Finally, we pulled into the stone edifice that was Moscow Station and disembarked. To Pyongyang, okay. We are in Moscow. The pocket altimeter. Let's sell the pocket altimeter. 220. Okay. Karimskaya, okay. No. No. A false passport. A top hat. Ooh. Gentleman traveller. An extra suitcase though, that will kind of suck. Alright, there's nothing I really want here. Let us plan. 3,700. Wow. It takes 14 days to get there. It departs in 2 days. Do we have enough time to go to the bank? Nope. The bank's fucking shut for the weekend. Okay, this is valuable in Omsk. Departs in 2 days. Minus 30. Minus 42 health? Minus 56 health. Holy shit. Minus 56 health. You are kidding me. And it departs in 2 days. We can leave tomorrow morning for an extra 790. I don't think it's... Let's not. I'll use that data to go to the bank. I can't go to my room if I don't pay you? What? Yes, you have to pay for your hotel room to stay there. Or at least, you know, prove that you can pay for it. Moscow was not a comfortable city for a Frenchman. A local composer had just written a piece people were calling the 1812 Overture, commemorating the Russian victory over Napoleon's invading Grande Armée in that fateful year. Patriotic passions were at fever pitch, so I stayed very sensibly indoors. Alas, my friends, my solitude was quickly interrupted by an officious rap on the door. 2 men in clothes so plain that they were most certainly police officers invited themselves in. I had heard on the Ankara, the newly formed secret police. I heard of the Ankara. Okhrana, the newly formed secret police, which investigated revolutionaries and malcontents. My luck, it seemed, had deserted me, so I resolved to make my own. They asked me my name and purpose, and I answered deferentially, keeping to the truth and not raising my eyes from the floor. They seemed sceptical about our journey, and I could not blame them. Anyone with half a brain in his head would wonder at our breakneck journey around the world. At length they nodded. One removed a curious monocle and placed it into his pocket. It seemed you are truthful. Crazy, but truthful. Why you travel through Russia we do not understand. Perhaps you were heading for Vladivostok? Perhaps you have some advice for us? Perhaps we do, the policeman agreed. Vladivostok is closed to all but military personnel. If you were thinking of going that way, choose again. Fuck yes! I was not planning on going through Vladivostok. Oh, Norwegian, that is excellent news. Welcome to Hawaii. It's sort of halfway here, a little bit. That would be great, Methodial. That would be very handy. They proceeded to rummage through our cases, tossing our possessions in all directions, but evidently finding nothing of interest. Do not stay in Moscow too long. Russian air does not suit Frenchmen. I took their warning to heart and quite looked forward to departing the Tsarist capital. Our character is now astute. Oh, the bank doesn't open until Monday. Alright, in that case... let's go today. The only reason I wanted to delay an extra day was so I could go to the bank and get some money out, but it's the weekend, it's closed, let's leave now. The bell in the stuccoed and whitewashed Moscow station gave its third and final clang, and the platform interrupted into frenzy. We boarded calmly and found ourselves in a small cabin with heated water and even a shaving mirror. Our character is now sharp. You do know, Heejin, that's the whole thing of the game. You try and get yourself and Phileas Fogg around the world in 80 days, connecting from city to city using whatever transport you can find, buying stuff in markets, selling stuff in markets. It's pretty cool. Liz and Kate played it a couple of months ago, a few months ago, 6-8 months ago, earlier this year. I'm like, oh, that is awesome. I should look out for that. And I finished the game that I've been playing for the last couple of streams, but I was like, okay, well, I've only been playing for an hour. I should find something to fill in the time. What can I fill in the time with? 80 days! Aw, Cider, I'm sorry to hear that. It's a fun game. Our character is sharp. Yes, that was a lot of, greetings, madame. May I see your ticket? How I despise this job. Well, I already know that we're going to Pyongyang. Can we get to Beijing instead? You mentioned trains. I've got the Continental from Salt Lake City to Cheyenne. Beijing to Pyongyang? Who cares? Accordions from Pyongyang. This is a train from San Francisco to Salt Lake City. Cheyenne, Omaha, Burlington. We were away. I familiarized myself with the train's layout. The last two carriages were heavily guarded prison cars, then fourth class, then third, and so on, with amenities scattered between the passenger cars. The smoking room was beside the dining car, plushly decked in Moorish fashion with low seats. I sat myself down and shared a cigar with a Russian businessman, who told me that some buyers will pay well for accordions from Honolulu, which we already knew. It's good to see that wherever one goes, the conversations one has are much the same. My bed that night swayed along with the motion of the train from Moscow to Karimskaya. Was a journey of over 5,000 miles, and we had only just begun. It's a fun game, but I am a little scared that I'm going to run out of money in the middle of nowhere. Let us converse. Greetings, monsieur. Let us share a glass of wine together. We can get to Pyongyang. I am aware of this. Can I get to Pyongyang to Manila? And then Manila to Port Moresby? I don't think we wanted to go to Manila. I think Manila is the wrong direction. Our fellow passengers were a mix of convicts, political radicals, prospectors, businessmen, and military officers. In the midst of this was a young lady, Rosa, wearing a bored expression as she was harangued by her formidable maman. I made her acquaintance only too easily. She was desperate for a sympathetic ear and told me her great secret. She had fallen in love with a peasant boy in 4th class called Jack, by which I understood that they had shared a glance of extreme passion in the baggage car. To be so young again. I resolved to keep an eye on their burgeoning locomotive romance. We crossed the Volga in the early afternoon, crawling slowly over a bridge perched on high stone pillars. It was a muddy, sluggish river, clogged with floating islands of rafts and large steamers bound for the Caspian Sea. I could just hear the lilting, rhythmic, oar-beating songs of the Volga boatmen over the whistle of steamboats. Yeah, wrong way. I don't know my geography very well. Let us attend to Fogg. Oh, thank goodness. We crossed the Urals today. At the risk of sounding like a jaded traveller, I must admit that they are hardly magnificent. A heaving up of earth and forested hills for a few hundred miles. We stopped for an hour at Ekeneberg, where I really wanted to sell something. I spotted the young lady slipping off to 4th class. Her worried mamma followed soon after, demanding whether anyone had seen her daughter Rosa. I stayed clear of the lady. She seemed to be out to make as much trouble as her offspring. Ah, damn it. There we go. I need to keep... time on board trains takes on a meditative quality. I visited the library car and met Goland, the daughter of a Mongol chieftain, who was poring over a thick volume of algebra. I lamented my lack of mathematical skill out loud, and she laughed. I must study algebra if I am to be an engineer in the Imperial Army of Russia. I wish to leave behind my ancestors' warrior past. It is a new world, I observed. We may remake ourselves as we like. She laughed, delighted. Just so. She folded the book closed. You have travelled, monsieur. They call us barbarians, don't they? She asked. They do, I agreed. But they would not if they saw you studying. She leaned forward, eyes shining. The truth is, there is more going on in my country than most outsiders know. We are growing fast as a people. What do you mean? I asked, intrigued. This is the age of progress, she replied, tapping her book. Of systems and of thermodynamics, and my people, we have discovered some very interesting things. I was intrigued and leant forward to hear more, but the girl shook her head. I won't tell you, she said and laughed. I will show you. Tomorrow night, on the deck. I will be there, I nodded. We conversed until supper, and she presented me with her family's swords, a Mongolian horsetail banner. I do not have any need of my past where I am going, she said. You have it. Do with it what you will. Will it fit in our luggage? Oh, fetch a good price in Yokohama. We need to keep... Omsk today, we decanted ourselves onto the platform. A full score of British, Dutch and German merchants, and took on more military officers, who cleared an elite first-class carriage for the use of a mysterious couple. I caught a brief glimpse of them, but lost interest quickly. However well off one is, there are always those doing much better. The hour grew late, and my meeting with Goland the mathematician approached. Monsieur Fogg watched my bustling about our cabin with suspicion. You look as though you were planning an escape, he remarked. I am meeting someone. Monsieur Fogg's eyebrow twitched in that manner of his, but he said nothing, returning to his newspaper. I breathed a sigh of relief and hurried from the cabin to meet Goland on the viewing platform on the train. You came, she said. I am glad. As am I. She looked at my eyes for a moment, then smiled quickly. Taking my hand, she walked along the edge of the rail, the wind tugging her hair into a wild dance. The train's lamp was a single candle in an endless night. Lifting my hand past her cheek, she pointed my finger out into the desert. There. I saw nothing except evening stars. I shook my head, and Goland laughed. There, she exclaimed. How many stars do you know that move? She was right. Excuse me. She was right. One gleaming dot on the dark horizon was lifting upward. Goland squeezed my hand. That star is the Garuda, launching, she replied. It flies at night to keep it a secret, but now you know it. Thank you for entrusting me with it, I replied, and she nodded. You seem an honest soul. I shall hold it in my heart, I replied, with gallant sincerity. I hope so. Her dark eyes flashed with hot anger. A moment later, she stood on her tiptoes, and I leaned forward. Out there on the deck of that remarkable train, with the endless Russian night bitterly cold, the Lady of the Steppes kissed me. Aww. Let us converse, as Fogg seems well enough. Passport, please sit down. Oh, it's Goland. Beijing to Lahore? To the Pangsal Pass? The easiest way from China to India. Did we learn anything? New Orleans? What? We learned how to get from New Orleans to New York. Okay, thanks, I guess. A quiet day amongst the mountains and trees. As the sun set over the Taiga, Monsieur Fogg expressed a mild boredom with a monotonous view from the carriage windows. My own feelings were quite different as I stared across that wild view, a view I liked so much that, once night had fallen, I went to stretch my legs on the viewing platform for the second night in a row. Paris World Fair, a roaring success. Yes. We're in Irkutsk. We crossed the halfway mark of our journey today. In the morning, we wound up the Angara Valley towards the mining camp of Irkutsk, the great city of Siberia. I saw Goland disembarking with her suitcase of books and struggling under the weight. I rushed to her aid, but she brushed my help aside. Generous sir, she murmured, but I cannot be seen to be helped by a Frenchman. I stood back, stung, and watched as she met a man on the platform, an uncle perhaps, who scooped her up with great familiarity and led her away to a horse, parked neatly in the luggage beyond. Then she was gone. I waited while the luggage was unloaded by leisurely porters and moujiks until the whistle blew and the train's engines wound up once more. Our journey continued, and by afternoon we had reached the magnificent expanse of Lake Baikal, as clear as the finest crystal, bounded by flower-baked cliffs on the western shore and containing a thriving, raucous population of freshwater seals. Freshwater seals! The track ended at the lake's edge, but the great trains showed no signs of slowing or stopping. I began to feel, as my master would say, a little perturbed. Now, my friends, this next sentence will seem to you the invention of a madman, but I assure you it is utter unvarnished truth. We drove straight from the shore onto the clear water of the lake, causing barely a ripple. I looked out the compartment window and saw the wheels pulled up, and Zotolos, which I am terrible at pronouncing, the train was hovering in the air through some unseen mechanism. I looked for the tracks and could only just see them against the gleam of the lake. They were cunningly built upon pontoons, which only just broke the surface of the water, though we did not touch them. What sort of train was the Trans-Siberian? Alright, we have Fogg up to 100 health. I contrived a meeting with the mysterious couple, though to be strictly accurate, I knocked over the red-haired woman, entirely accidentally. She was very game about the whole unfortunate incident, and introduced herself as Madame Ksenia Petrova Volkova. I apologized profusely to the point where she clearly felt rather sorry for me, and invited me back to her heavily guarded carriage. Her companion turned out to be an engineer by the name of Sinan Yardi, who seemed locally and eager to converse in any language other than Russian. He had defected from the Ottoman Sultans to the Russian Tsars some years ago, and was the genius behind the rapid construction of the Trans-Siberian Railway. He seemed reluctant to talk of it, so I changed the subject to lighter topics. He had a particular fascination with minerals, and could hold forth on them for hours. I listened eagerly, nodding and exclaiming at the more obscure facts which he revealed to me with relish. He rummaged in his bags and presented me with a chunk of glittering green malachite. This was mined in the Urals. I want you to have it, Passepartout, he said. It has some value. I hope it will be of use to you. The hour grew late and I took my leave. Madame Volkova thanked me for entertaining her companion and warned me to say nothing of what Monsieur Yardi had told me to anyone, with a smile that belied her light-hearted tone. A strange day. Our character is astute again. Zootalours! In San Pedro, should we... Phileas Fogg attempts round-the-world adventure. He's on 99. I'm not going to groom him at 99. There is little to report of the outside world, so a word today on Russian eating habits. More specifically, the Russian distaste for regular mealtimes. I met a fellow Frenchman today who said to me, the Russian meal is a guide to the Russian character. I begged him to explain further, and he obliged me. The guiding principle of the national cuisine is that all dishes must be capable of being served at any time the eater feels disposed. He sacrifices his finer susceptibilities to his love of freedom. I resolved to keep this thought in mind on future approaches to the dining car. If our locomotive suppers are not triumphs of culinary art, they are at least signal examples of logistical achievement. He is the very model of a modern Major General. He knows something vegetable, animal, and mineral. I am the very model of a modern Major General with knowledge of something vegetable, animal, and mineral. Something, man, I can't believe I can't remember the second line. It's a difficult song, but I should be able to get to the second line. I am terrible. I am a terrible person. Let us move on. We're nearly at Krymskaya. Let us heal up. We pulled into Krymskaya in the evening. From Krymskaya, it was possible to branch onto the Chinese Eastern Railway to Beijing, so we disembarked onto the platform. It's 10 a.m. We watched the train pull away, and as the third whistle failed and the train departed, Rosa clambered out of one of the first-class windows and into the arms of a man dressed as a train waiter. They kissed fervently, but after they disengaged, I realized that the waiter was none other than her peasant lover, Jerk. They clutched their meager bags and hurried away before I gathered my wits. I cheered for what is worth more celebrating than young and wily lovers. Yes, the accordion. That is why we're here. Sell the accordion. Iron ore. A fur coat. Could probably... we don't really have that much. A Russian gentleman's cold climate set. Yeah, that's... Oh, wow. We have too many extra suitcases. Alright. A completed Russian costume should protect us against the and negotiate times of Russian journeys. That's handy. We can't go to Vladivostok. We can go to Pyongyang. Departs tomorrow. See, that's the problem. I can get from Vladivostok to Yokohama. Okay. We still have time to explore. There's no bank here. We didn't learn any new routes, so it's on to Pyongyang. There was no moon at Karimska, and not even a barking dog marred the silence of the luminous Siberian night. The only lit building bore the copper lily of the Artificers Guild. I knocked at the back door, eager to find company to help pass the long cold night. A dwarf with long black hair, rouged lips, and thick brass goggles opened the door. I bowed and introduced myself as a foreigner to Karimska, looking for conversation. Welcome, come in out of the cold then. I'm Nadezhda Yefimova. We walked through a squalid corridor into a round room lit with bright electrical lamps. The artificers sprawled on low sofas and greeted me with beery enthusiasm. A human form automaton ushered me to a seat and handed me a drink with mechanical precision. I accepted my drink with a grin, and the small gears in the automaton's face were to produce an answering smile. Clever. The hours passed quickly in good company, and we shared many outlandish tales. I complimented their hospitality, and Nadezhda clapped me on the arm. It has been a pleasure sharing our fire with you, Passepartout. She reached in a pocket and took out a copper medallion with the Artificer's Lily stamped on it. Take this, present it to any member of the Artificers Guild, and they will be bound to offer you help. I thanked them for their generosity and wended my way back through the dark streets of Karimska, a city lit only by the brightness of the stars and the pale ethereal glow of the northern lights. Alright, let us depart for Pyongyang. Cold weather. We have lots of cold weather. We boarded a Chinese steam train at Karimska station. It was a smooth journey until we reached Zabakalsk, where there was a change of gauge from Russian to Chinese rail. To relieve the tedium of waiting, I attempted to better understand the mechanisms the engineers were using. They seemed to consist of hydraulic pumps intended to jump the train from one rail to the next, and I could not help but notice they were not stamped with an artificer's seal. Monsieur Lagarde, can we get from Pyongyang to Manila? Can we get from Manila to Madras? How about some island in the middle of nowhere? There is neither hotel, bank, nor market on that island. But we can get from Lima to Santiago, which is the wrong way. Is that all we got? We restarted our journey a few hours later, only for it to be yet again interrupted by Chinese customs officials at Manzhouli. They were as brisk as the Russian officials. Clearly the bonds of bureaucracy overrode those of nation. They stamped our papers with their square ivory seals, leaving a distinctive red cinnabar mark. Our journey? We have many options. We need to choose one. The one we choose will decide our route across the Americas. Yes, he is in roaring health. Today we reached Mukden, famed for the King Imperial Palace. Alas, there was no time for exploration, for here our train divided, half going west to Pyongyang and the other half turning east to Beijing. Is that that's the wrong way around, isn't it? I'm sure we're heading. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, see, Pyongyang is east of Beijing. What the hell, game? Seriously? I spent this day attending Monsieur Fogg, who had managed to find a week-old English periodical which proposed a new fashion of tying one's cravat. I ventured that a gentleman must be à la mode and of the latest style. Monsieur Fogg considered my opinion thoughtfully. Indeed, he said at length. I practiced the new cravat tying technique before bed. A gentleman's gentleman can never be too prepared. And we're back to being dependable. We reached Pyongyang in the dark. It's 10 a.m. I could see little of the platform, much less of the city. The soldiers guarding the station seemed nervous and unfed. Monsieur Fogg seemed not to notice the tension in the air. But I had a presentiment of unpleasantness that would not leave me. My friends, I am not a superstitious man, but I felt a chill that night. We shared a carriage to a hotel with a group of talkative Protestant missionaries who blessed us at great and exhaustive length before we managed to escape to our beds. As I drifted to sleep, I wondered what Pyongyang would look like in the morning light. Alright, let's get to the market. Is there anything here we can sell? Yokohama, San Pedro, Karachi, Khartoum. I don't think we made it to Khartoum. The bank. I regarded the manager of the bank as we entered, a small man who greeted with a greedy disinterest. You want to make a withdrawal? Oh shit, it's Friday again. This is going to cost us a couple of days, but we need the money. Well, we have lots of time to explore. Let's see. My OBS is telling me encoding is overloaded. Consider turning down video settings or using a car. Now it's fine. It's telling me 23% dropped frames, which is about what I'm stuck with because Australian internet. CPU's 23%. CPU seems fine. It happens from time to time. There's nothing I can do about it. Not even electing a new government would help at this stage. Fucking liberals. Pyongyang was a battleground between competing groups of Chinese and Japanese businessmen. The Koreans seemed to regard both sides with wariness, and European faces even more so. There were a surprising number of Americans on the streets, but then Americans, so it was said, were perennially drawn to opportunities for commerce. After all my concerns upon arrival, the city turned out to have a most restful and charming atmosphere. Air thick with the smell of frying river mullet, schoolchildren swatting at each other with colourful umbrellas, women in chima jigori shopping and fluttering silk fans at their bows. Even my master summoned a remark upon its, as he put it, adequacy. Maybe we shouldn't have waited to go to the bank. We can get to Yokohama for nearly all of our money. I don't want to go down to Manila. Why is it so much more money to go to Yokohama than Manila? Departs tomorrow. At 8 o'clock tomorrow. It arrives on Tuesday. That might be better than, yeah, I think that's going to be better. We can wait in Yokohama for the train. For the bank, I mean. Do I actually need to wait? Oh, wow, okay. That is not what I wanted to do, but oops. I was gonna skip out and get the funds. Returned to the bank at opening time to collect their funds, and then we were ready to proceed. No, I do not want to go to Vladivostok. I've got to wait another day. Yep. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I just completely fucked it up. I've just cost myself a week. I've just cost myself a week. I'm really upset. I clicked the wrong thing, and I'm really upset. Ah, it's worth a lot in Vladivostok. That's nice. Well, I could take it to Vladivostok, except that train's left now, so I can't. No, I don't want to go to Manila. It's the wrong direction. Departs in 2 days. I can speed it up for £750. That's an entire week. It was Saturday and now it's Friday. Oh, there we go. We got £103 by doing some odd jobs. I'm upset. I'm actually upset. We took passage on a Korean vessel crewed by a mix of Koreans, Mongolians, and Siberians who regarded Monsieur Fogg with grave curiosity. I tried to dismiss their attentions, but it did little good. They continued to goggle at my master in mild disbelief until he retreated below deck with the slightest of furrows etching his brow. Fogg now in debt, says Bank. Fuck off. Don't fucking make me waste a fucking week and then throw that in my fucking face. For the first day aboard, we kept ourselves mostly to ourselves. The crew seemed busy with their tasks, and I was happy to have few of those myself. Monsieur Fogg was his usual impervious self, however, and made his calculations and read his newspaper. Meanwhile, the boat steamed onwards. Thanks, Methodiel. Very welcome. One of the cabin girls, Elena, spoke good English and was attached to us as a translator, though she created as much conversation as she explicated. Do you know my parents? Are they famous? Elena nodded. My father was a Russian officer, maybe, I think, and Mama comes from a famous Cossack family. They're all soldiers. Your maman is a soldier, I blinked. She dressed as a boy and joined the Cossack host. Elena wrinkled her nose. My auntie and grandma were soldiers too, Mama says, but I have to earn enough money for my own house and armor my own horse and armor before I can join. I blinked down at the little cabin girl, rather at a loss to how I should respond. That's nice, I hazarded, and she nodded enthusiastically. Mama runs the boiler room. All the soldiers are frightened of her, she told me rather wistfully. One day, I will be like her. Elena made a mock fierce face, and I pretended to quake in terror until we both began to laugh uproariously. More seriously, a friend in the boiler room was useful. I wondered idly, but aloud, if it would be possible to speed up our arrival to Yokohama. Elena nodded vigorously. I will ask my mother. With that, she hurried away. Let us converse. Greetings, Mademoiselle. So, Yokohama? I hear there is a travelling circus in Yokohama. Can I get from Yokohama to Honolulu? Probably, but you can pick up buffalo hides in Honolulu. Extremely valuable in Omaha. How about Canton? No idea. I've learned to tie my own shoelaces. Excellent. How about San Pedro? How about Port Moresby? Okay, bye. Can I get from Yokohama to anywhere? The price of arriving today is £800. And if you can't afford it, you can boil your heads. Another £800 to speed this up? Fuck. That is too much. Boiling our heads it is. I will bring you the water from the engine room, she replied. Elena laughed as I hung over the ship's rail to get a better view of Yokohama as we neared the port. She gave me a goodbye hug, which surprised me, though her mother watched me with hard eyes throughout our exchange. We weighed anchor as the sun set. It lit the foreign flags in the harbour. Thank you, Rockpants. With bright fire as it dripped below the horizon. Okay, let's sell that. 380, okay, cool. An elastic wallet. Are we going via Hong Kong? I mean, probably. We need to explore because we have no other way out of here. Alright, we can go to Manila. Oh, there we go. It was hard to believe that Yokohama had only relatively recently opened to foreigners. There was an entire foreigners district not far from the waterfront, where it was as common to hear Chinese or Russian as Japanese. There was a melding of cultures and clothing styles. Russians arrayed in their rich clothes, hoop-skirted British ladies, lately of Bengal or Singapore, Americans who had adopted the coat-like hurry over their shirts and trousers. I noticed a Japanese man watching the scene with a look of intense concentration and scribbling in a sketchbook. What are you doing? He jumped and left a smear of ink on the paper. He looked up, clearly irritated. Do you mind, he said, his accent an unholy mix of Dutch, French and English. I'm making a drawing for a woodcut. He was clearly a temperamental sort, so I left him to his work with a polite smile. I do not think he liked foreigners from his drawing of them. We did that already. Depart. No. Depart to San Francisco. 4,000. It departs in 5 days, which means we can go to the bank. We just made it before the bank. We just made it before the bank closed. We regarded the manager. A stocky, sweaty man. You would like to take out some funds? Yes. That will be enough. Return to the bank on Wednesday. It departs in 5 days. We did not have a week, but we had 3 days. There's a travelling circus. We took a room and settled in, and I did some minor I went out to explore a little. Spoke to a cheerful French artist who had mislaid a locket, which I spotted, and from whom I discovered that some buyers will pay well for amethysts from Hong Kong. I thanked him and he laughed and he went about his day. With the last light of the evening, I engaged another guest in conversation to find out what I could, but came away with nothing but advice for starching collars. Alright, 9 AM. We collected our funds from the bank and the manager wished us well. No, we do not want to go to Manila. That's the wrong direction. Departs in 3 days at 3 o'clock. Can we go back to the bank and get more money? We've got 3 days left. Okay, that's what I want. It wouldn't give me anything in 5 days. Only 2 days or a week. As night fell, I ran a few errands for the hotelier, earning £77. That's better than nothing, I suppose. What happened to the travelling circus? Before going to bed, well, Fogg is at 100%. I spent a few hours walking around and entered into conversation with the cheerful Siamese clerk who was searching for a dog, which I located near a food stall. I asked him how he knew, and he launched into a long and complicated story about his mother's aunt's favourite Latin teacher. A convoluted tale, and one not worth relating again. We are nearly halfway through our journey, as far as time goes. We made our way back to the bank to collect our money. Alright. Nope. Still nope. Tomorrow at 3 PM. An extra £800? It's not going to leave us with much. 1 day, I think we can wait. Let's wait. Are we going to need the cold climate stuff anymore? I don't think we are. We didn't go via Khartoum, did we? Oh well. Yep, the Atlantic is the thing. I spent a while talking to the hotelier. Pocket altimeters from Hong Kong. Alright, let's depart. Minus 30. But plus 26. So it's only going to cost us... Oh, it's the Water Lily. The Water Lily was a sleek iron-hulled ship-to-submarine prototype captained by a severe American by the name of Wicker, and crewed by a mix of Americans, Chinese and Japanese, who all spoke a kind of salty, curse-studded sailor's English. I can't believe this game has been going for an hour and a half. In addition to the usual complement, the Water Lily carried an entire corps of brass-goggled engineers and a brace of submariners on standby, should the captain call the order to submerge. The rumour was that she had been a slave ship and had only been refitted for passenger transport a good few years after Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. But I saw no trace of a dark past aboard. The crew seemed a happy family and welcomed us into their iron-hulled bosom. I'm not reading the newspaper. Fuck the newspaper. Does reading the newspaper speed it up? Berlin Railway Man locks up incognito dignitary. Hey, that was us. Fucking newspaper. It does seem to be going faster. Our cabin, while hardly spacious, was adequate to our needs. One of the midshipmen came by to show us how to use the pressure seals in case of submersion. But in all other aspects, I looked forward to a peaceful steamship ocean crossing. I was not to be so lucky. Thank you, Rock Fans. Let us converse. Greetings, Captain. Passenger, what do you want? San Francisco to Salt Lake City. How about Salt Lake City to Albuquerque? How about Albuquerque to San Pedro? Why would I go back from San Pedro to San Francisco? Gastown. Gastown to Calgary to Regina to Winnipeg. Yeah. I don't think we'll be hitting Canada. The salty air blew cool and sharp against my face as I opened the door onto the top deck. It was painfully early, and the only passengers awake were a group of Chinese labourers hunched miserably near the stern. One of their number was vomiting copiously into a bucket. I offered him my own secret remedy, which I had brewed up for such an occasion. He swallowed it down with a certain dubious desperation, but immediately improved in both complexion and temperament. He thanked me most profusely. I asked him about the captain, but with no language in common, communication was impossible, so we settled into playing dice in quiet silence until the sun rose. It's Vancouver! Moscow police query Mysterious Frenchman. Thank you, Cider. I accompanied Monsieur Fogg to a game of whist with a family of American missionaries who were travelling back to San Francisco for a family wedding. My master began strongly, but Mademoiselle Loretta, the eldest girl, had a sharp eye and won several hands in a row. A new hand was dealt. I noticed Mademoiselle Loretta slip a card into her sleeve, smile triumphantly at my master, and play another winning hand. The minister's daughter accepted Monsieur Fogg's congratulations demurely, though I saw a flash of something altogether unsporting in her eyes as she lowered her lashes. It left a sour taste, and I resolved to steer my master away from any further games with the missionary family. Greetings, mademoiselle. Say, can I get from from San Francisco to Omaha? And then from Omaha to Chicago? No, not at all like me. I see. Tell me about Winnipeg. A crossroad of sorts. Can I get from Winnipeg to Toronto? Probably, but from Gastown. Can I get from Salt Lake City to Winnipeg? I can get from Winnipeg to Chicago and from Omaha to Chicago. I spent today in the company of the Water Lilies Submariners. They were all hardy men and women who preferred the dim, enclosed spaces of the hold to the top deck. Too much sky, one of them said, squinting suspiciously. Her crewmate nodded. All that fresh air. They shuddered collectively, and I suggested a bracing race to the boiler room. I tried to keep up, but could not quite adjust to the lack of height and continually tripped over my own feet. Their commander, a short Japanese-American woman, pronounced me an utter disgrace. I decided to salvage my reputation against the Submariners, and so lifted my head proudly and suggested a drinking contest. A grin of vicious, unqualified glee spread across Commander Davis's face. I feel I have fallen into a trap. I began to think my suggestion a poor one. 3 flasks of sake later, I was convinced of my grave error. Commander Davis was apparently legendary for her ability to hold her drink, whereas I ended the evening in an unexpected embrace with a starboard bulkhead. Not perhaps one of my most successful adventures. I was climbing the rigging, as exercise of course, and not at all for the purposes of spying on the crew to appease my own rapacious curiosity, when I heard 2 of the crewmen arguing in a pidgin mix of English and Japanese. I peered upwards, eager to match faces and expressions of the voices I could make out. They were both Japanese, but one of them was dressed in Western style and the other in Japanese Hanton and Hakama. As I watched, the trouser-wearing sailor grabbed violently at his compatriot, but missed his footing and tumbled over the platform edge. I was unable to look away as he fell. His body lay still and crumpled on the deck, but I heard his scream in my head for days after. I looked up and managed to catch the sight of the fallen sailor's companion, his face still and pallid. Was that guilt in his eyes, or merely shock? He slipped away before the captain arrived, and I followed him. He retired to the crew quarters, and I began to hear the sound of desperate muttered prayers. Oh, cool. I can zoom out to see where we're up to. We visited 8 cities. 8! We are currently organised and collected. Our valeting is strong. Our relations are comfortable. The Water Lilies crew held a funeral for the dead sailor. I was not specifically invited, but was curious about the incident. The funeral was an excellent opportunity to learn more about the crew. Captain Wicker led the Christian service with customary grimness. I was surprised by the absence of the sailor's companion, who had been arguing with him just before his fall. Yet he was not the only one missing from the funeral. Oddly, only half the crew had come to pay their respects. Wow. I suppose that death at sea was commonplace, and the crew had too much work to do. Let us converse. Tell me, can we get from San Francisco to Cheyenne? And how about Cheyenne to Washington? Seems unlikely. I introduced my daughter to cards. Indeed. She is rather... tell me more about San Francisco. Can I get from San Francisco to San Pedro? I can get from Chicago to Atlanta, apparently. A storm. Too exhausted to write a proper entry. Just suffice to say we are still afloat. As we settled down for the night, I was struck by an unrelated thought. Monsieur Fogg, the dateline. I have altered our watch already, Monsieur Fogg replied calmly. Did you think I might forget? My master was, of course, correct. With an eye such as his, it was unthinkable he might miss such a detail. We had reached the point directly opposite Greenwich, where the hours we had lost in travelling around the Earth were added back. A whole extra day. Commander Davis, tell us about Burlington. Can we get from Burlington to Washington? The most efficient way to Washington from here is through Houston. That is good to know. He's paid for everything, basically. Yesterday's storm hit us with a little warning. One moment I was preparing Monsieur Fogg's shaving water to exactly the right temperature. The next we were being tossed from one end of the cabin to the other. We were only lucky that the bed was securely nailed to the floor. Rain clattered against our iron hull, nearly drowning out the shouts of the crew. The storm lasted nearly 6 hours and blew us far off course. The captain spent most of the day peering at his charts, trying to locate our position. There is no land anywhere upon the horizon. Relations with Fogg have strengthened slightly. Oh shit, where are we going now? What? We're going the wrong way. Turn left. Oh, we're going to Honolulu now. Oh, well, that's great. The captain announced a change of direction. The Water Lily would now make for nearby Hawaii rather than San Francisco. We would make port in Honolulu in 5 days and would have to find our own further conveyance from there. That is kind of pissing me off. Monsieur Fogg's lips pressed ever so slightly together, a rare outward sign of entirely understandable annoyance. This, my master said, will not do. Indeed not, sir, I agreed, not even daring to calculate the delay and expense our unexpected diversion would cause. Monsieur Fogg gave me a cool, appraising glance. Captain Wicker has reneged upon his word as a gentleman, he said curtly, before lowering his voice to an almost furtive undertone. Our course is clear. We must mutiny. I opened my mouth to... Mutiny? Do we really want to mutiny? I don't think we want to mutiny. Argue the point, but he continued on without so much as a pause. See to it, Passepartout. Use your... natural charm? I interjected brightly. Quite, he said, with the agreeableness of a gentleman who has just given his valet a near Herculean task. We will mutiny in 5 days when we reach Honolulu. Make your preparations as you see fit. Relations with Fogg have strengthened slightly. That's good to know. Well, good luck, everybody. My task was clear. I was to foment a mutiny aboard the Water Lily. I decided to begin by exploiting the crew's animosity towards one another. Divide and conquer, or so dear Maman always counselled. Gossip and rumour would be a good way to start, I thought, though such subtleties might also be lost on a crew of sailors. I decided to steal the captain's wall-mounted crucifix and blame the theft upon the Shinto crew members. The captain took the theft as a personal affront and ordered a humiliating search of the crew's quarters. The officers destroyed the Shinto shrine in their search, and several of the crew were dragged out to the brig for fighting. Wow. A terrible person. How is our journey? Yes, we must find a route that will get us as close to Europe as possible. It is with satisfaction that I notice a certain increase in tension aboard the Water Lily, a situation I would carefully have to exacerbate if my master's mutiny was to have any chance of success. Next, I attempted to ingratiate myself with the Chinese labourers, who were still rather storm-tossed and discombobulated. I managed to convince them to play dice with me, and proceeded to lose deliberately to gain their favour, to the tune of £50. They were quite pleased at their newfound bounty, and combined with my grace in losing, this seemed to make them look upon me with greater favour. Our funds have gone down somewhat, but relations with Fogg have strengthened. Oh, good job, Rock Pants. Sorry about your troubles, Sada. Let us attend to our master. I had attempted to suborn the obvious targets again aboard the Water Lily, but wars were often won by the unexpected. With that in mind, I turned my attention upon the ship's artificer, a tall, rather imposing woman in a short jacket embroidered with the Guild's copper lily. Artificers were notoriously neutral in the matter of conflict or civil disruption, but I showed her my artificer's medallion. She sighed heavily and told me to call her Shanaz. It seems I must honour my guild's debt, she said with evident reluctance. You may call upon me. I spent the day putting the last finishing touches to my planned mutiny. It was a matter as delicate and serious as the creation of a souffle by a master chef. I spread word of my signal amongst my allies and retired to bed early. One could not mutiny on a bad night's sleep after all. Greetings, Reverend. Tell me about Honolulu. How can we get from Honolulu to San Pedro? Most likely not. Indeed I would. Tell me more about Honolulu. San Francisco by boat. Okay, what about Acapulco? And then from Acapulco to Panama City? Well, we discovered a route from Manila. From Manila to Honolulu. And then Honolulu to somewhere. We reached Honolulu in the dark. The captain took a small skiff into the harbour with a few of his officers wishing to inquire about repairs before putting the Water Lily into dry dock. Monsieur Fogg watched the boat for a long moment. Now is the time, he said crisply. I trust everything is in order. I assured him it was, and he nodded, having expected no other response. Let us hope so. With that, my master retreated to his cabin, and I called the signal to arms. The Water Lily erupted into chaos everywhere, was the clash of sabres and pistols. Now and then I heard the shriek of the officers' sonic weapons. But I was not alone. The half of the crew that followed the Christian faith fell in behind me with a rallying cry. They fought their Shinto crewmates with vicious determination, clearing the top deck within the hour. The Chinese labourers rewarded my friendship with steadfast loyalty, throwing themselves into mutiny with all the desperation of men and women who utterly loathed sea travel and longed to revenge themselves upon the instrument of torment in any fashion. They lit fires and tore up the already ragged sails, causing some welcome chaos. The submariners did not appear. It seemed they had battened themselves away in the hold for the duration of the mutiny, but perhaps it was the best outcome I could have hoped for, given my failure to impress their formidable commander. Yes, that's why I didn't go with the submariners before. Suddenly, a horde of rat-sized clockwork automata boiled up from the engine room, tripping up the officers and crew loyal to the captain and emitting gouts of scalding steam at any who dared attack them. The Water Lily's officer, then, was on our side. By noon, it was clear how the day would end. The mutineers raised a ragged cheer of victory. I myself had ended up with a debonair scratch upon the cheek and had somehow come to be in possession of a brace of pistols and 3 sabres. By the time the captain and the officers returned, we had complete control of the ship. They were quickly trussed up and returned to their skiff to seek their fortune in Honolulu. Monsieur Fogg emerged, surveying the scene of recent battle with a calm eye. "Well done," he said, with classic gentlemanly understatement. "Still, it was well done, and more, if I do so myself. Relations with Fogg have strengthened." Oh, we're leaving. We're not even stopping in Honolulu. We are going straight out. Hey, tell me about San Francisco. Can I get to Las Vegas? No, not all like us. Can we get to San Pedro? You can get to San Pedro from San Francisco by fishing boat, but the journey is a tiring one. Can we get from San Pedro to Houston? The quickest way to Houston from here is to go via San Pedro. Well, that's why I asked about it. There's San Pedro. Okay, why did we want to go to Houston again? I can't remember. Oh, that's the airship to Acapulco. Okay. Yeah, it's flashing there because it's waiting for me to do a thing. So from San Francisco, we can go from San Francisco to Chicago. And then Chicago to Atlanta. And then to New York. And then we should be able to... From New York, we should be able to get to... England. To my amazement, the successful mutineers held a vote and elected me the new captain of the Water Lily. I was delighted. Can you imagine, my friends, your humble passepartout, captain of his very own ship? Rest assured, Miami, it was in great part a ceremonial title which made no particular demands on my seamanship. Monsieur Fogg, though pleased with the success of our mutinous endeavour, seemed to regard my elevation in rank with some wariness. "I am," he admitted, as we prepared for bed, "someone put in mind of Bonaparte. Pablo!" Otherwise, the succession passed smoothly, and I acquired Wicker's top hat as a mark of office. Burlington, and then Burlington to Washington, Burlington to Albuquerque. We can get from Winnipeg to Ottawa and down to New York. The new first mate, a cheerful girl by the name of Wang, came to me with an intriguing notion. "As you know, the Water Lily is a ship-to-submarine prototype," she said. "If the submariners cooperated, we could convert to submersible and make port at San Francisco in 2 days rather than 5. I called in Commander Davis, the leader of the submariners. She took her time about arriving and regarded me with insolence, which was most impertinent. "I refuse to aid you, sir. You may lock me up, torture me, subject you to any indignity, but I will not conspire with you." There will be no indignities? "There will be no indignities," I exclaimed in horror. "Madam, I ask you in the spirit comradeship, will you not help the Water Lily?" "I will not," she said, and that was that. First mate Wang looked rather mournful, but offered me a wan smile. "Ah, well, we will make in San Francisco in 5 days rather than 2. It is no great hardship." Maybe if I'd run better. We spent most of the day repairing the damage done to the ship by the mutiny. First mate Wang took care of the particulars with an efficiency that I was loath to interfere with. Therefore, I spent my time not at whist among the crew, attempting to reconcile the Shinto with the Christians. I promised them each separate services and shrines, which seemed to placate them a little. Still, it was clear to me that the scars of the mutiny would not be so quickly healed. I happened upon First Mate Wang holding hands with Commander Davis at the rail of the boat. It was too late to trouble with the submersible, and I had no reason to interrupt their movement, so I moved along. Greetings, First Mate Wang. Coming up from San Francisco to Omaha. You've mentioned trains. I've told Chicago can be reached from Winnipeg, Omaha to Atlanta. How do you like being a captain? I do. I'm at your command. Tell me about Chicago. Chicago to Ponte Delgado. Seems impossible. Chicago to Burlington? We're making good time to San Francisco and had repaired much of the damage to the water lily. I began to feel restless for land, having only an expanse of blue water ahead and behind. My unlooked-for captaincy weighed heavily upon my landlubbery shoulders. In the evening, I spoke to Wang about our onward journey, and she told me the quickest way to Cheyenne is through Salt Lake City. An interesting fact that I already knew of. Monsieur Fogg. The Americans are still recovering from the Civil War. Yes, we could buy revolvers in Salt Lake City. There we go. Cheyenne to Houston. We've arrived in San Francisco. 20 days after leaving Yokohama, we managed to not lose even a single day despite our obstacles our seemingly simple steamer journey had thrown up. At my urging, Commander Davis assumed control of the ship, and it promptly sank beneath the waves after we had disembarked. Some of our possessions could be sold here. It's 9 o'clock though. What do we have for sale here? San Pedro. Valuable in Gastown and Burlington. I don't think we need the cold weather stuff anymore. We can certainly sell both of those. Can I afford the time to get down to San Pedro? Now it's no, stop that. I want a plan. San Pedro is just here. Departs tomorrow, arrives Friday. Oh, that's right. Alright, I think it would be, I don't think it's worth it. Okay, the train to Salt Lake City arrives, departs when tomorrow? 5 o'clock tomorrow. Okay, good. Alright, let us stay the night. San Francisco seemed less a city and more a ravenous beast bent on consumption of everything, even of itself. Within the ever-expanding city limits, enormous steam-powered drills and diggers flattened hills, straightened roads, reformed neighbourhoods, and dumped the resulting rubble and stone into Mission Bay. I headed towards Chinatown to eat. It was a warren of crowded wooden and brick houses, temples, businesses, herbalists, laundries, and market stalls selling fruits and flowers. Brightly coloured lanterns illuminated the streets, and little draconic automata spewing black smoke called the attention of passers-by to restaurants and gambling houses. A Chinese theatre dominated one of the streets, having been imported from Shanghai and reconstructed in San Francisco. It advertised Chinese theatrical performances. Large groups of men stood around smoking, drinking green tea and calling to each other good-naturedly. I was rather out of place, though there were many Europeans patronising the opium dens, gambling halls, and discreetly signed brothels of the town. I decided to approach an older man in European clothes, who offered me a cup of green tea when I introduced myself. "You are very well dressed," I remarked approvingly. "A most excellently cut jacket." He chuckled. I do not know rock pants. He chuckled and smoothed his crisp shirt. "Many of my friends, they say, Lynn, you talk to foreigners, you wear their clothes, and I say to them, I am American now, and you are too." He pointed at a young man with his hair in a queue. "Look at him with his old-fashioned hair. There is a law against it here, but he wears it like that, the fool." "What a ridiculous law. But that is your tradition. Why is there a law against it?" I asked. "It hurts no one, surely." We must let go of our old culture," Lynn counseled. "We are American now." "Why did they make such a law?" Lynn looked at me with the pity of a wise man for a patent fool. "Because they want us to become like them, of course," he shrugged. "The sooner the better." I want to go to the market before I explore. I have until 5 p.m. Okay, market. What are we selling here? We might as well sell that. I'd like to buy Smith & Wesson. We can probably get to Burlington. I'm going to need that. Not going to need that anymore. Oh, Chicago. We're going through Chicago. Not going to need that anymore. Probably won't need that anymore. I might hang on to that one. Alright, let us explore. Oh, there we go. There's the route up to Gastown. Whoa. That amethyst. I sloped towards recently constructed Long Bridge, which was crowded with families out for a stroll, and people fishing for silvery smelts with long poles. In the water was a jangle of rowing boats racing each other, and boatmen taking passengers out to Mission Rock. Cheers and good-natured shouts emitted from a halfway house in the middle of the bridge. I peered at the halfway house and surmised from the revels I saw spilling out from its doors that it was some manner of drinking den. A man, red-faced and somewhat the worse for drink, bumped into me. I excused myself politely, and he made an apology in return, slinging an arm around my shoulders. "Oh, hello," he exclaimed. "You don't sound like you were from around here." You do not sound American either," I retorted. "No matter, I was Dutch once, in a past life, but now I am as American as President Grant. This is a land of newcomers. You a professor?" "I am a traveller," I said. "I am travelling around the world." He laughed. "Oh yeah? And I'm a Navajo chief." "Actually," I leaned in conspiratorially, "I'm a jewel thief on the run." "What, really?" His eyes widened. He slapped his thigh. "That's incredible." A brown-skinned woman slipped an arm into his. I regarded her. She was wearing a ruffled walking dress in the latest European style, but with a short tasseled jacket embroidered with the patterns of her tribe. "Ah, my manners," he shook his ruddy face. He shook his ruddy face. "I am Anders, and this is my wife Jenny." "That is a beautiful jacket," I complimented, bowing my head. "I made it," Jenny replied, with a tiny wicked smile. "I am very skilled with the needle." I hesitated, the obvious question about her origins on the tip of my tongue. I swallowed back the question, though clearly with a visible effort, for she laughed with full-throated pleasure. "I am of the Modoc tribe, what the new Americans call Indians." Jenny rolled her eyes. "I do not mind your surprise. Most of my tribe has been taken to the Klamath Reservation in Oregon." But you were not with them," I observed, realizing my faux pas as the words tumbled from my unthinking lips. Jenny sucked in a deep breath. "I left my tribe," she whispered. Anders squeezed her hand. "I fell in love. In this world, women leave their families for their husbands. I made a home of my choosing, which is more freedom than my tribe can claim." Anders whispered something into Jenny's ear, and she laughed, though I feared I had opened an old wound with my prying questions. I nodded and found my way back to Monsieur Fogg, who was sitting drinking tea with a disconsolate frown. "It tastes like soap," he remarked, but would say no more. And we're back to being dependable. Alright, now we can go to Gastown. Or we can go to Burlington. Let's go to Burlington. It's 400 pounds. Let's go. Go! Oh, wait. I meant to go to Salt Lake City. I'm an idiot. We were lucky to arrive in San Francisco just in time to catch a journey along the as yet unfinished Transcontinental Express, which would take us as far as Burlington in 5 days, with only a handful of stops along the way. Maybe we can get off and then resume our journey. I don't really want to know anything about Burlington. I found a way to get from Burlington to New Orleans. I screwed up again, everybody. The first day aboard was enjoyable enough. American trains could clearly not compete with their European counterparts, but it was amusing to see them try. The posters proclaimed Pullman's Palace sleeping cars, and while not palatial in the slightest, they were at least serviceable. We sipped cool beer as we rattled through a long stretch of desert in the shadow of tall mountains. I attended to Monsieur Fogg and his delicate stomach, which was not entirely better today. Our relations have strengthened slightly. Okay, now I would like to get off here. I gave the young black woman with a deep red bonnet and infectious laugh a wide smile. Her name was Diana. I am meeting my husband in Cheyenne, she told me. Cheyenne. He did construction work in New York, but New York isn't safe anymore. We have enough money to move now. How long have you been apart? Diana tilted her head and tugged at her bonnet charmingly. Oh, 10 years, she said breezily. I have been working in rich white ladies' houses in San Francisco, and he's been constructing buildings in New York. We've only just scraped up enough money to live together. She smiled, nearly glowing with happiness. Where else can one go but New York? I asked, thinking of our journey ahead. New Orleans, she replied. You can take the paddle boat down the Mississippi from Burlington, she laughed, though New Orleans is dangerous in its own way. We talked a little more, and the afternoon wore into evening, and we passed by Ogden, close to Salt Lake City. We jumped off the train. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to work out or not. A sudden, spontaneous change of course. Day 60, Monsieur Fogg murmured that night in his sleep, and still some distance left to travel. Market! Sell the Smith & Wesson. Oh, I could have sold it in Dallas. Yeah, let's grab that. Okay, and... I still want to get to Burlington. Departs tomorrow at 5 PM. Alright. Oh, we've got to pay for it again. Well, yeah, I fucked up there. I hope that was worth it. I hope I didn't actually lose money getting off the train and then rebuying to sell that and then having to rebuy a ticket. As I sat in the downstairs room of a hotel looking out across the plains and enjoying a moment of silence in this peaceful town, I was approached by a young lady with a wry smile. May I join you? By all means, I answered. She smiled and slid into the seat opposite. I heard you're a traveller. I heard that you're going around the world. That is correct. The whole world? That is so exciting, she said. The San Francisco Chronicle did a full profile on you both. You're international news. That may skew my master's experiment in our favour somewhat, I observed. He intended to show our journey was possible under normal circumstances. She smiled. You sound tired of your adventure. More anxious than tired, I replied. You're nearing our journey's end. You are still barely halfway around the Earth, the girl replied. Is there not still the great Atlantic to cross? There will be a way. She smiled. I suppose that has been your experience so far. We have yet to be stranded, I replied, though we have had our fair share of scrapes. She shook her head, delighted. In the last 30 years, we've irrigated this valley, planted crops, and built half of our temple, she said. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is building a town out of entire countries. I cannot understand it. And you wish to travel, I asked? She fell silent for a moment, and I realized I had reached the heart of the matter. With all my heart, she said. But what my family are doing here and what they are building, it is too important. It needs every hand and every heart to make it fly. But if all else were different, then why? I would hang onto your coattails like a shot, monsieur, and I ask you to show me the shores of Europe. When you are old, such a trip will be a matter of a short holiday, I assured her. In 50 years' time, a journey like mine will seem quaint. She sighed. I am already too old for fairy stories, she replied, but perhaps you'll be proved right. Perhaps one day, people like me will travel all over the world, spreading our good word. The evening was wearing on. The young lady rose and bid me farewell and bon voyage. I watched her go with some relief. Her gaze had been rather too penetrating. Depart. Alright, let's go to Burlington. Yeah, I screwed up there. Oh, please, tell me about Burlington. Through Atlanta. Oh well. Too bad. Today, a fellow with a painfully trimmed mustache in impeccable suit approached me outside the lavatory. I nodded at him companionably, and his thin lips parted in a contained grin. I'm Felix Granger, he said. You are a puzzle. I was utterly flummoxed. I, a puzzle? I repeated in consternation. Monsieur, I am a simple man whose past is an open book. Oh no, do tell me how you came to be on the Transcontinental. Thereby hangs a tale, I can tell, good sir. It seemed a probing question, which made me immediately suspicious of his motives. I made some non-committed answer, but he pressed me further. Finally, I excused myself with some fabricated errand. What a strange, ill-mannered fellow. We stopped at Cheyenne, Wyoming, for a few hours in the evening. The trim-mustached fellow disembarked to talk with a 6-foot-tall woman who wore the latest slim-trained skirts and a pistol tucked into her waistband. We watched, none the wiser. At luncheon, I asked a sturdy-looking prospector who looked out of the carriage with an expression of palpable awe. That's Esther Hobart Morris, the first woman justice of the peace in all of America, he said fervently. Ain't she something? The trim-mustached fellow boarded the train again before the last whistle blew, his face drawn and anxious. I don't want to go from Burlington down to New Orleans. I'd like to get from Burlington to Atlanta. We were held up by outlaws. They dragged tree trunks over the line and forced the train to a halt before boarding, brandishing pistols and sabres. They went carriage to carriage, demanding valuables. I looked at my master, who had a certain glint in his eye, and I did not doubt that he wished to resist these outlaws' demands, being a man with the deepest respect for the law. The lead bandit fired his gun into the air. The name, he declared, is Jesse James. Now you give me everything you've got. The sabre lifted to my throat. I handed over my wallet. What else could I do? Monsieur James smiled a toothy smile and tossed me £10 back in return. Buy yourself new shoes with that, he said, as he proceeded to also steal my shoes. The sabre point moved on. Now it was Monsieur Fogg's neck. What about you? You look good for it. I jumped to his aid. He is my gentleman, I declared. I carry his possessions for him. Is that so? The outlaw declared with interest. So I should technically be taking from you twice, should I? There was no other option. I am this close to punching him. I suggested we discuss the matter like gentlemen. He began to laugh, but not for long. Just at that moment, a group of soldiers headed by the trim-mustached fellow stormed aboard our carriage, pistols drawn. Jesse James lifted his sword and held up his hands. I watched curiously as he was led away by the agents. Then the steam engine restarted. Oh, we got our money back, thank goodness. The steam engine restarted and we were soon on our way. Not much the worse for wear, although our valuables were impounded as evidence. We did not have time to wait for the case to come to trial, but the officers compensated us a little, to the tune of over £1,000. A kind fellow passenger gave me a spare pair of shoes, and a few hours later we reached Burlington. We disembarked, grateful to have arrived in one piece. Our cash reserves are certainly running low. Amethyst, valuable here, £200. Wax cylinder, Chicago, Houston, Atlanta. Evening jacket, yep, let's sell it. Ah, the things with green, Right, can I plan here? I need to explore. Exploring is how we find new routes. Burlington was situated on the west bank of the Mississippi River and had grown to prominence along with the steamboats that paddled up and down the long stretch of the river. The construction of the Burlington Railway route had caused a temporary influx of Chinese and Irish labourers to the town, where many of them drank and generally had a good time. Good times were a scarce commodity in Burlington, or so it seemed. The town distinguishes itself in my memory as the place where I managed to burn one of Monsieur Fogg's shirts. He was not terribly understanding. I apologised most profusely, and Monsieur Fogg informed me that he preferred proper action to tedious apologies. This is unlike you, Passepartout. I do not like it. Well, we got nothing. We can take a steamer to New Orleans. It takes a week. And that's it. That's all we've got. It's going to take us a week to get there. And that's it. We're pretty much done then. We can't get from Burlington to Chicago. Well, that fucking sucks. I went to stretch my legs. And spoke to a nervous San Francisco mademoiselle who had mislaid a locket, which I spotted. And then, between bouts of great joviality, mentioned that merchants in Havana will pay very well indeed for cotton flowers from Atlanta. Okay. We're not going to Havana, are we? That's south of us? And we've already gone through Atlanta? I assured her we were unlikely to leave that way, to which my friend laughed. I never wanted to leave my maman, but now here I stand. That's it, we've got nothing. We can't even go back to Omaha. We can't travel backwards. Well, this is going to suck. We might as well go to the bank then, if there is one. Departs in 2 days. Is there anything else at this market? Chicago, Houston, and Atlanta. I don't think we're even going to get to there. Oh yeah, we can go through Atlanta. Alright. Can we get any funds tomorrow? £1,000 tomorrow. That will do nicely. Another night fell, and the clock was forever ticking upwards. As night fell, I engaged another guest in conversation to find out what I could, learning that New York was connected to Washington by rail. Yep. Okay, this leaves tomorrow. Can we go to the bank again? What time tomorrow does it leave? 6 p.m. Ooh, hang on. Yes! Yes! Awesome! Alright, because we had the right clothes, we were able to get it to leave a day early for no extra charge. We boarded the Dark Queen, a twin-decked six-boiler sternwheeler bound for New Orleans. The Mississippi was famed for the luxury of her steamboats, but also for their unfortunate tendency towards catastrophic boiler explosions. I felt lucky, though, and quite certain that nothing ill would befall us on our journey to Crescent City. We were certainly due a good turn, were we not? Thank goodness. We got something out of it. This is going to take a bunch of days to get down to New Orleans, though. The rooms and lounges of the Dark Queen were full of gamblers enticing passengers into games of cards or dice. Or, you know, as it says on the screen, dice or cards. The river ports had been passing more and more regulation, and the cheats and crooks had all fled to the unregulated waters of the Mississippi to ply their trade. A fool and his money are soon parted, so the saying goes. I had little pity to waste on fools, though Monsieur Fogg clearly found the entire operation distasteful. What? Greetings, Captain. Passepartout, you slimy dog. Tell me about New Orleans to Atlanta. Atlanta can be reached from Miami. Yeah, that's nice. Do you play the trombone? No, I don't. That's a shame. I'm looking for someone to join my band. Tell me about Atlanta to Marrakesh? Atlanta to Miami? Ah, thank you. I'm not sure that's actually going to be very useful. Captain Latour was clearly quite cozy with the gamblers and had something of their attitude himself. I'll wager I can get us to New Orleans in 3 days rather than 4, he shouted to the room at large. Who'll take the wager? We could use an extra day. And the captain seemed quite sure of himself. £100 on it. Yeah, we've got £100. I called. The captain whooped before loping off to the engine room. Watch and learn, my friends. You'll see a record made today. Captain Latour ordered the I can't pronounce this word. I know I'm going to get this word wrong. Captain Latour ordered the Calliope. I know it's not Calliope. I have no idea how to pronounce it. To play a tune as he mustered the crew and gave them the order to push the engine to their maximum limit. The coal shovelers scowled at the extra work involved, but the captain ignored them magnanimously. The Dark Queen's crew seemed competent enough, but as the boilers whistled and screamed, the ship began to make ominous keening sounds. Calliope! Ah, thank you, Rockmans. I offered to help shovel coal and stripped off to my sleeve shirts. Keep shoveling, Captain Latour shouted, tapping dials and muttering orders. He squeezed more oil into the engine crank. We'll be in New Orleans by sundown, which was when something began to make a screaming noise. I turned about, looking astern, seeing smoke issuing from a crank in the middle. And then it was too late. The rear boiler exploded. The entire ship seemed to shudder and convulse as the sailors screamed and wept and burned. It was hell, and the literal rather than metaphysical sense, I was right in it. We did not reach New Orleans that day, and I wondered if we ever would. Relations with Fogg have deteriorated slightly. Well, that's a shame. None of the sailors died yesterday, although some no doubt wished they had. A much chastened Captain Latour moored the ship and organised boats to take them to doctors ashore. Monsieur Fogg and I were unharmed, at least physically, but there is no music or laughter on the Dark Queen's deck, and even the hardened gamblers played in respectful silence. Oh, it is true. The Dark Queen continued her journey down the Mississippi, though at a crawling pace. Captain Latour ordered only 2 of the 5 remaining boilers fired and had to offer double pay to the stokers to induce them. What a waste this is, I said disgustingly to Monsieur Fogg. My master regarded me thoughtfully. Captain Latour took a gamble, and this time he lost. That is all. But you were a gambling man, I said, thinking of the screams of the sailors. I realised as much the very first day you took me into your service. What is the difference? There is none, Monsieur Fogg said calmly. After a moment's consideration, I merely have a better calculation of the odds. We docked at New Orleans when the sun was low in the sky, glinting over the brackish water of the river and bathing the French and Spanish colonial villas of the city in the soft yellow light. It's Monday now instead of Sunday. Captain Latour came to see us off, bent-backed and almost grey as he handed me my winnings of £100. I think this wager has taught me caution, he said shakily. Be wary of New Orleans. She is a city a man can abandon himself in. I took his money. It was a paltry sum, but perhaps it would help him remember his lesson. There seems to be no departures today. We could explore a little. We could buy a trombone. Wax cylinder, Houston, Atlanta. Another wax cylinder. Well, we're definitely going to Atlanta, aren't we? Darjeeling tea. 2,400 in New York. Well, we're definitely going to New York. Okay. I'd like to plan and see... Okay. Departs tomorrow at which time? At 11 a.m. Okay, good. We don't have time to go to the bank. The bank is shut. We can explore. Havana, Port-au-Prince. I spent a few hours in exploration learning ways in which we might travel. Let us stay for the night. I met Death in a smoke-wreathed red-lit bar in New Orleans as the jazz band struck up another tune. He offered to buy me a bourbon. Perhaps in 20 or 30 years, I replied archly, as some of the other patrons snickered. Death pulled off his mask to reveal handsome cafe au lait features and dark green eyes, and then extended a skeletal hand to me. A fine costume, I remarked. Merci, mon cher. I am Death at a neighbourhood Mardi Gras, and I am practising my role. He took my proffered hand and brought the back of it to his lips for a gallant kiss. He flicked me a rather unmistakable look under his dark lashes. To be so clearly desired by Death was unnerving. I found my feet shaking and stepped back. He tilted my face to the side. Do you find my colour displeasing? He asked, with a lazy smile. Not that. He laughed, slow and pleasing. It matters little, monsieur. There are many white men in New Orleans who do. In spite of it, I am a free man. Death resumed his mask. I do not believe in prophecy, but the chill of his cold fingers on my face sent a thrill of fear through me. Abandoning dignity, I ran from the bar, nerves rattling and like knuckle bones in a cup. Let us depart for Atlanta. £98. The Piedmont Oil Line from New Orleans was not, in fact, an airline at all, but according to its advertising, the fastest railway in America. What could be better for getting us close to the edge of the Atlantic? Winning our bet would now require a miracle, but we still had every chance of a decent showing. 9 days. We are not going to make it. Tickets, please. Atlanta to New York. New York to Ponte Delgado. I do play football. Tell me more about Atlanta. Atlanta to Marrakesh? Seems unlikely. Atlanta to Dakar. We set out ourselves in a carriage with one other occupant, an extremely large man who introduced himself as Charlie Sullivan, a lad from Birmingham, who was most impressively sculpted, especially around the neck and upper arms. I asked where he was going, and he replied, New York. I was boxing, I'm going home. You fought in a competition? I interrupted. There was an exhibition, he said. I won. 3rd round knockout. I gulped. However, Monsieur Fogg's interest had been increasing sharply throughout the conversation. You were trained, he demanded keenly, or self-taught? I've got a manager, Sullivan replied. He tells me what to hit. Excellent, excellent, Monsieur Fogg enthused. I want to hear all about it. I sat back and enjoyed the conversation. The details of boxing are more intricate than one might expect, and hearing the business of cut and thrust delivered in Sullivan's so very English tones was quite informative. We disembarked a little later at Atlanta, and I sighed with relief, as though sharing a compartment with Monsieur Sullivan had resulted in less air to breathe for the last few hours. Yes, they will. Okay, departs in 2 days to New York. Let's stay overnight. Atlanta, at the heart of Georgia, is a busy city with construction on every corner. Americans, it seems, do everything by hand, and there were no signs of automata or even steam-powered lifters. Instead, work gangs with pulleys and ropes lifted log beams and stone into the place. Still, the mood of people was positive enough. We may not be much to look at today, mister, declared Stanley Goodman, owner of Goodman's and Goodman's, a curious hardware store, bakery and bookshop, into which I stopped to buy something for lunch. Lunch. I could really use some lunch. What time is it? It's 11 o'clock. But in a few years' time, we'll be state capital, and after that, who knows? And to what do you attribute Atlanta's great success? I won't lie to you, mister. Being bird to the ground helps to put things in perspective. From here, we're building up and together. I was impressed with the ambition on display, since the town seemed to me to be more a crossroads of the railways than a city in its own right. And what place did railroads have in humanity's future above the clouds? Well, we can go to Chicago at 8 o'clock. And then from Chicago... No, let's not go to Chicago. New York departs tomorrow. Yeah, we are not going to make it. Okay, wax cylinder. Oh, they're still in Chicago as well. That's fine. Okay. That is it, I guess. Oh, okay. Well, we're going there anyway. Well, I guess we can explore. The bank opens at 12 p.m. I walked the streets a while, discovering the possibilities for how we might make progress. Nothing. What time tomorrow does it start? 2 o'clock. Let's do it today. Go! Departing in 38 minutes. I forgot I could negotiate things to travel earlier. The great train stations of the Americas are truly sights to behold. Cathedrals to the majesty of the railways. They will stand for all time as the country grows in strength. Or at least so say the billboards and marketing stands that line the walls of these colossal temples to the large-scale endeavour of tying up a wild country with knots of steel track. I wonder if my master had waited for one more year, how much easier our journey might have been. Perhaps in 10 years, the idea of 80 days will seem ludicrous, and people will complete such journeys in a mere fortnight or even faster. A fortnight, for everyone not part of the English colony, is 2 weeks. But if they do, what will happen to the joys of travel? You'd think I would have learnt from Liz and Kate's experiences. Oh, please, let us talk about New York. We can get from London to New York for the Henrietta, but it's £5,000. We do not have £5,000. And that is a long journey. I passed the train journey watching the scenery go by and relaxing. Even a valet must take time off. Alright, we're in New York. Surely we could not be far from home now. To the market. Trombone. Sell it. Valuable here. Well, why are you... Okay. We do not have £5,000. Oh, look how short we are. Sell... No! Stop that! God damn it. What can I sell? I need like $200. I do not have £200. Yes, we'd like to withdraw some funds. Sure. You know, £200 would have been fine. Oh, really? I was pickpocketed in New York. I do have an elastic wallet. I seized the thief's hand still in my pocket. You tangled with the wrong Frenchman, I exclaimed in triumph. The little thief looked up at me with thick-lashed eyes. I realized belatedly the thief was a young girl, barely 10. I released my grip slightly, and she took the opportunity to curse in a thick Irish accent and bite me. I held on despite the inconvenience, and finally she grinned at me, teeth stained dark red. Are you done, little vampire? For now, the girl muttered. What's it to you? I looked down at my bloody arm. Truly, it was a salutary lesson to not let my guard down in strange climes. Don't steal again, I commanded sternly. As she returned my possessions, she agreed slightly she would not ever again, cross her heart, though her expression was shifting. I relaxed my grip and she slithered away and lost herself in the crowd. I made my way back to her hotel before anything more untoward could befall my person. Relations with Fogg have strengthened slightly since I didn't lose all of our money. Our room was decent enough, but I was sure I would not sleep. Day 74. Before turning in for the night, I made certain to repack and iron everything to prepare us for our upcoming journey. Well, if we're getting £1,000, then... Yeah, well, we're not going to get there anyway, but... 11. Alright, and then depart. Oh, you're kidding me. Tomorrow, no charge. Well, one more day in New York. £81. You can get to Chicago from Atlanta. Yeah, okay, thanks. Oh, we can afford £11. We're on an airship. Cheeky C! Hello! How are you? Welcome. The game is pretty cool. I have made a poor showing. We left New York about the Henrietta, an old Confederate airship converted to a transatlantic mail carrier. We would reach London in 3 days, barring any unexpected delay. Wait, 3 days? That's day 78. Barring any unexpected delay. Mind the wallet, Passepartout. Our funds are running low once more. We might actually make it. We might make it. The ocean tore along beneath us. I enjoyed talking to no one. There was nothing I needed to know, no one to charm, flatter, or beguile into giving us aid. There was only the wind and the time, and we could control neither. Passepartout, my master demanded. Make us go faster if you would. I went to talk to the boiler attendant. Faster, you say? It can be done, but it would destroy the engines. We want no risk, no danger. Then I promise you, we will be in London in 2 more days. Yes, attend to Fogg. Monsieur Fogg looked out of the observation deck windows with perfect calm, as though we were not, with every passing moment, drawing closer and closer to London. My nerves were in shreds, and I was nearly chewing the rails with anticipation. I spent the remaining time watching every possible danger, one eye on the crew, the other on the ship, ready to react to the slightest trouble. But nothing broke the peacefulness of our day. It was day 76. We had barely 100 hours remaining to return home. We tethered at the airship dock in Hyde Park and felt, for the first time in 77 days, the feel of English soil under our shoes. At long last, we had returned to London, and in time to win the wager. This airship was the best decision I have made all journey. I am in roaring health, but we must make haste. I seized my master by the collar and threw him into one of the steam carriages idling on the banks of the Serpentine in Hyde Park. To the Reform Club, I shouted. I'm not driving it myself. Throwing 50 pounds at the driver as an inducement to speed. And you'll have another 50 when we arrive. That's 100 pounds. I didn't sign up for 100 pounds. Now drive. There is no need for such unseemly haste, Passepartout. We've got 3 days left. I don't need to tip the driver, my master noted, but I was a man possessed. The streets of London seemed comforting and familiar as they flashed past my well-travelled eyes. The carriages were mostly horse-drawn, and gas lamps rather than electricity lit our way as we raced down Pall Mall. The carriage barely shuddered to a steam-hissing stop before I dragged my master from his seat and up the steps to the imposing doors of the Reform Club. I released him only when we reached the great saloon, where my master's erstwhile friends stood from their chairs, gaping in an attitude of great shock. Monsieur Fogg only straightened a little and said, in his calm voice, "Gentlemen, here I am." The room erupted into cheers. Where had the crowd come from? Had they followed us inside from the street? I had scarcely noticed them. I realized, as though a spell had suddenly broken, that we had succeeded, and my master had won £20,000. With the 4,000 we began with, the debt built up from banks along the way, and our remaining funds, it was a profit of over 8,000. My heart began to beat again, and I saw for the first time the grand interiors of the Reform Club, which had no doubt remained untouched since its founding some 30-odd years ago. The most advanced piece of technology within was a gilded clock set upon the mantelpiece. A few club members were muttering about the impropriety of alighting in front of the club from a steam carriage. I pushed my way through to Monsieur Fogg, who had nearly been swallowed by congratulatory crowds. You have won the bet, Monsieur. As though saying it aloud once more would make it more real, and then repeated the sentiment again for good measure. Monsieur Fogg pressed my hand warmly, and did not remark even once upon the impropriety of my gesture. That's why I did not shake his hand. One of the options was shake his hand. I'm like, I'm his valet. I don't shake his hand. Indeed, though his cool gaze did not so much as waver or soften, I believe he welcomed the chance to shake my hand. Any gentleman would be fortunate to call you his valet, and you have been a worthy companion to me besides, Monsieur Fogg said, and I knew that from him there could be no higher praise. Mr. Fogg! Mr. Fogg! One of the journalists in the crowd cried, interrupting our conversation. What's next for the grand adventurer Phileas Fogg and his loyal valet Passepartout? I'm deliberately. My master looked at me. I returned the gaze. I have always wondered what is at the centre of the earth. I looked around at the faces of the assembled crowd and quirked an eyebrow. Anyone care to make a wager? Monsieur Fogg refrained from rolling his eyes. I believe, he said, with great deliberation, that tonight I will have supper and go to bed. Come, Passepartout, it grows late. Yes, Monsieur Fogg, I said, and followed. Our journey around the world is complete. I didn't think I was going to make it. Thankfully, the Henrietta was a very, very fast airship. I was a bit deteriorating to his health, but we won the Around the World wager. 77 days despite bank delays, exploding Mississippi paddle steamer, and American train robbers. We did it, everybody. We visited 15 cities. Steamships were our favourite transport. It cost us 8,000. Oh no, we finished with 8,000. Total amount spent £21,000. Our valeting was remarkable. Our relations with Fogg are comfortable. Oh, good luck on the heist, everybody. Aw, yay. Well, that's gonna kill my stream, but I'll deal with that later. And that's it. We made it back to London. That's been 3 hours, just one playthrough of 80 days. So I'm going to call it here rather than going through it again. Oh, there's posters. Last saved. We did not save. This playthrough seed was number 2, in which Passepartout is convinced that he has at last found his ideal. Well, that's interesting. Yes, let us exit the game. Thanks, Avast. 80 days was added to my game list so I can game interrupted. Oh, and there's a cool, there's a cool summary of the thing that happened. That's nifty. I believe you suited up. pretty sure you suited up. It doesn't have a confirmation message. Here we go. Smiling Sam. Oh, that's weird. We all survived. Good job, everybody. Well suiting up. Only the following people emerged. Everybody. I guess Smiling Sam didn't emerge. Sucks to be you. Yay, we beat one of the bosses. Woo! Alright, I can come back to this screen now. Thank you everybody for joining me. It was great to have people in the stream again. I appreciate that. Yarr, matey. What did you get to? Oh, yeah. You passed the matey threshold. Let's see. Tomorrow is Monday here. I have a dental appointment tomorrow at noon, which is basically I need to leave as soon as Changeling finishes tomorrow. So I won't be streaming tomorrow after Changeling. I might stream tomorrow night, depending on how things go at the dentist. If it was the same as it was last week, then it should be basically fine. But I'm between games at the moment, so I'm not really sure what I'd be streaming anyway. Suggestions are always welcome. What do I have? I've played 80 days now, so that's something. I finished Thimbleweed Park. I finished The Witness. I don't want to play Shadowrun Returns because Liz was sort of already doing that. I'm sort of a bit sick of Shadows over Mordor. I wasn't interested in it as much as I thought I was going to be. I enjoyed watching Ryan play it, but playing it myself, it's a bit frustrating. Excuse me. It's a bit frustrating. So I don't think I'm going to keep up with that. Lego Jurassic World, in the same vein, it was it's very Lego-y, and there's the 4 of them, but the problem with streaming it is the music copyright all gets dinged and it wants to be a pain in the ass. And if they're going to be a pain in the ass, then I don't really want to help them promote their games, because they're just going to be dicks for games that I've already bought and want to just enjoy with people. I don't know. I might give that one more go. I basically got through the first movie in one playing, so I guess I could do the second one and see how that works out. And then just not really worry about the hub stuff so much. And I can just sort of do that in my own time. Costume Quest. Do I have Costume Quest? Let's have a look. Installed. It's not installed. Costume Quest. I have it. I purchased it last year. I have Costume Quest 2 as well. Okay. Sure, I can play Costume Quest. How much of it have you already played, Cider? I'm guessing that you've played both of them reasonably thoroughly. Oh, it's a Double Fine puzzle adventure game. Okay. Yep, alright, yep. No, that's a great suggestion. Alright, I will install those. Oh, it looks like the next game will be Costume Quest. And then probably Costume Quest 2. Alright, well, I'm glad I asked. I'm glad we had this chat. Thank you for watching both of my streams today, sort of, technically. If you've been watching on YouTube, thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can follow me at CaptDaf on Twitch and Twitter to get notifications when I go live. The next stream will be maybe tomorrow later than normal. Maybe not. or during the week. If you follow me on Twitch and or Twitter, you'll find out when that will be. But I'm busy for my regular schedule tomorrow. I'm not available. Thank you, Rock Pants. There's a train going past. That's fine. But coming up next will be Costume Quest. I won't be in costume while I'm playing it. That's not happening. But you'll get to enjoy another puzzle game and me tearing parts of my beard out trying to figure out what's going on. It is 11:30 in the morning and I've been up since 5 a.m. I had breakfast at 5 o'clock this morning before Changeling started at 5 o'clock. So I'm going to have some lunch now and then figure out what to do with the rest of my afternoon. I might have a nap. I've got to run werewolf tonight. Anyway, I've rambled enough. Thank you for watching. Until I see you again next time, let me find the stop streaming button. Until I see you again next time, drive fast and take chances. Bye.